Hey, what's up guys? So today we're going to be going over the tier list for Apex heroes in Season 1 with a bunch of nerfs and buffs coming out. A lot of people have asked me, what do you think of this hero after these buffs and nerfs? Well, today we're going to go ahead and go over that. And I'll give you guys my tier list as in what characters are the best. Now, first off, I do want to mention that there are different placements that I would place these heroes depending on which situation. Sometimes out in the open, certain characters will be better. Sometimes indoors, there are other champions that will, of course, be better for those scenarios. But obviously, you got to look at how consistent are these heroes, right? How consistent can you be able to use their passive ability? Because sometimes that opportunity won't even present itself. Now, of course, there are buffs and nerfs that I will briefly mention because sometimes people didn't see that there are patch note changes that can actually affect how a legend plays. Now, there is a small difference on PC and console, or if you're playing on PC with controller, you do get that aim assist, so keep in mind there are some small minor differences. Like, for example, if I am playing Caustic and someone gets tagged by one of the smoke gas canisters, I will be able to snap ADS much faster with that aim assist than I would be able to on PC. And that's just the nature of things. But some of these are just so small that I would still say that this list still is very viable in the category of A, S tier or whatever, when there's just like one tier difference. But I'd say most of you guys should understand that there are going to be some minor differences depending on what you're playing on. And of course, where the ring moves to. But let's go ahead and hop right into it with the hitboxes, because I think this is actually a pretty important thing to explain first. So in Apex, the different heroes or legends have different hitboxes. Now, one thing I do want to mention is the three largest characters that you see, which are Pathfinder, Caustic, and Gibraltar. These all have been adjusted. Their hitboxes are a little bit smaller. Pathfinder actually benefited the most off of this and actually made a dedicated video talking about the buffs that Pathfinder has gotten, because it wasn't just this. Pathfinder can also use his grapple straight to zip lines that aren't even his, and he can just go on them. It's just a small quality of life thing, but it is technically a buff. But basically, Pathfinder got a huge buff with the hitbox, and that has actually changed a lot of people's opinion on it. But look at the size of Wraith compared to Gibraltar. Huge difference. Now, again, Gibraltar has been buffed, his hitbox has been reduced, but it's still very large. Now, I also want to mention a few other buffs really quick before I just hop into the tier list. But Lifeline can no longer get golds from care packages. Bloodhound has been nerfed in her ability to basically scan. It's just basically a second extra delay on where that person was. So basically, unless they're camping, they're not going to be in that exact spot. Bangalore has gotten a nerf on the movement speed on her passive. It used to be 40% and it is now 30%. And for Caustic, he received so many buffs. I just am going to recommend you guys to check out the video that I made for him. But basically, he's had a cooldown reduction on his ultimate and his basic ability. And on top of that, the radius has increased. And of course, the hitbox has also changed as well. But again, this list is basically the consistency at which these heroes can be viable as far as using their abilities. Again, different scenarios call for different things. But first off, let's go ahead and hop right into it. So for the S tier, as in these are the best heroes. In fact, there's only one that I would really consider just far above and beyond all the other heroes, and that is Bangalore. I'm going to actually explain why. So first off, Bangalore's passive is useful in every single situation. Some characters, their passive or their abilities can only be really good indoors, or maybe let's say outdoors, or in situations where you need to get the high ground or in enclosed areas. But Bangalore's passive is viable in every single situation. Being able to just get some movement speed, great. And then on top of that, the ability to use the smoke being a very aggressive ability, and also you can use it passively if you want to maybe get out of a fight, push a certain area, res a teammate, actually loot, because sometimes you want to use your smoke so you can actually loot something because maybe you don't want to get third party as fast. But it's great, and in addition to that, it deals 10 damage, which a lot of you guys probably don't think is a big deal, but it's a huge deal, especially in the early state of the game, because you can just shoot the smoke and find out if someone is actually there or not, because you can get a hit marker and actually deal that 10 points of damage. And it also is AoE, it's fairly easy to hit, but 10 damage is basically one shot on a lot of the guns in the game, especially with faster firing guns. Being able to just get one free shot on someone can make the difference between you losing and winning a gunfight, because of course you got one extra shot on them for free. And again, keep in mind that's AoE, so if everyone's clustered up right next to each other, you can potentially get a total of 30 damage. And on top of that, you get 2 charges of them. it's really, really strong. And I just think that the smoke is just so viable in every single situation, whether it's indoors or outdoors. And then Bangalore's ultimate can really make it so if you're fighting and you get third or fourth or fifth partied, you can just throw that thing down, and it really makes it so it basically either splits the team up, or they're just going to give you that amount of time that you need to heal up. So Bangalore, hands down, S here. I'm pretty sure everyone will agree with me on this. But if you guys disagree with me on any of the things, because I like having a discussion and I want to know like why you consider this character, like if anyone thinks Bangalore's like the worst character in the game, please let me know like in the comments, because I'm genuinely curious. But if any of you guys have comments, feel free to go ahead and comment. I enjoy reading what you guys have to say as far as you know, what you guys have as far as your tier list, because of course this is a tier list discussion video as well. But anyways, yeah, I would consider Bangalore hands down to be viable in every single situation. Plus, with the digital threat, and I've been messing around with this, it's just running double R99s with digital threat. It's great. In fact, in this gameplay, we're going to be doing it at the end game. But having digital threat is so incredibly strong because you can literally just smoke someone, they can't see you, and you can just snap ADS to them and be like, okay, where am I, right? Even though they have that little indicator, it's so incredibly strong, and I love it. It's great. But moving on to the A tier category over here, I put Wraith, Lifeline, Octane, as well as Pathfinder here. Obviously with the new buffs Pathfinder's got for the hitbox, he definitely has moved up. But here's my reasons for Wraith. The hitbox is really what it comes down to. By the way, the glitch still works if you pop your ultimate and then basically mantle something and then use your basic ability. You'll be able to basically pop your ultimate again. You can basically infinitely ult, and that really helps out with rotations, especially if you're looking to get high kill games. Because she moves faster when she's using her portal ability, you're able to consistently go a lot faster than most people in the game, and that's pretty big. But it really comes down to her hitbox. That's what really makes her strong. Her passive is definitely nice, especially if you're looting. It can be a huge difference. But again, her kit's pretty viable at every single point in the game. Obviously, if they're right next to you, you see them, like, hearing what they're using can be pretty useful too. For example, she'll say, you know, I think they're sniping. So you can kind of know what guns they have. At that point, you will know that maybe one person super far away is trying to snipe, and there's two people that are pushing you. You know that one person's a sniper. You can kind of use that to your advantage. But what it really comes down to is, honestly, just her hitbox. But anyways, the portal glitch will probably be patched in the future. I don't think this would really change my opinion on where I'd put her because her hitbox is so strong. And it lets you play really aggressive, and then if anything goes wrong, you just pop your ability to kind of just get back to your team. As far as Lifeline goes, her ult is always viable, even though she's been nerfed as far as not being able to get the gold items, which, like, getting gold armor is not that big of a deal because no one really uses the Executioner, but getting other gold items can be a pretty big deal, like, of course, the knockdown shields and stuff. But I still think she's really good because her ult is viable not only to get the stuff, but late game, if everyone in your team has everything, you can use it to block. You can use it to block off areas completely, make things not passable. And especially if they add a solos mode, being able to heal faster can be a pretty big deal. Obviously, her shield has a lot of potential for outplay because you can pretend you're rezzing someone because it can clip through an area. They'll think in their head, oh, they're rezzing, I can just walk up to them and finish them off. And then you just cancel your res. So there's a little bit of mind games, and I like her for that. So I think she's very viable, and on top of that, the consistency for your team to be able to have that high level gear is why I would consider her in the A tier for sure. Now, as far as Octane goes, again, movement speed in any FPS game is going to be great. 30% movement speed, which is the same as Bangalore's just basic passive, is still really strong. You do have that health cost, but being able to move faster is just huge, especially if you're playing for games where you need to go for high kills. That's pretty big. Obviously, the jump pad can get you to areas where you normally couldn't get to, especially if the last team is a Pathfinder and they're basically sitting on the high ground. It definitely does help out with that. But overall, Octane is really aggressive, and I think most of the heroes in this game that people are getting like world records with or essentially winning tournaments with, they're just usually primarily picking Bangalore, Wraith, and Lifeline, and there's a lot of times where you'll see these other heroes once in a while, especially for scrims. Gibraltar can be absolutely amazing during some of the final circles where there's lots of squads left over. But again, the consistency of being able to do that, and depending on how you are playing the game. Maybe you're just looking to get some more wins consider those heroes, not necessarily terrible, but they're better for other situations because, you might not have that situation where you're fighting outdoors, therefore Gibraltar's ult really loses a lot of its value. Or, for example, if you're going to only be fighting indoors, Caustic can have amazing value. Or if you want to shut down certain areas of the map, I think they'll patch this, but you can shut down doors completely with Caustic by locking them in the bunker. That's probably something that's going to be fixed in the future, because I don't really think they intended it to be used like that, because you basically got to throw it up and close the door at the same time. It's a little bit more difficult to do. But anyways, speaking on A tier, I already mentioned Octane, but Pathfinder, it really comes down to being able to scan and know where people are during those final circles is just really big. You can see right there where I just outplayed that kid because I had the smoke. He didn't know where I was. It's huge with Bangalore. Absolutely amazing. But again, being able to get to those endgame high ground spots or just advantage positions, Pathfinder is so great for that. And again, with the hitbox changes, it's excellent. One other fun thing that you can do with Pathfinder is you can throw a bunch of arc stars on him. Your own teammates throw arc stars, then you go ahead and crash in them. You can do a lot of cool stuff with, of course, the grapple. Fun stuff. I think he's probably one of the most fun heroes to play, and I've been really enjoying him. Now that his hitbox has been adjusted, he seems to be able to survive a lot more, because that was one problem that I had with him, is I just felt like I was getting shot way too much, and that's because, of course, the hitbox. Now, moving on to the B tier category, I have Gibraltar and Caustic and Bloodhound. Now, Gibraltar and Caustic are here kind of because they're more situational. They're more passive characters. But in addition to that, it really comes down to their hitbox. Their hitbox size and the way that they play is much slower. And again, if you're playing in these tournaments where you're trying to get high kill games, I feel like it's a little bit more difficult because if you're playing passive, you have to wait for the other team to come to you. And generally, you're going to get face rolled, especially if you're playing Caustic and you're like, okay, we're in the final circle, maybe there's only you and another squad, and you're basically posted up in a room. What's going to happen is they're going to more than likely throw grenades, and therefore you're kind of stuck in that room, right? Because even if you're blocking, you can kind of remove your traps, but they could be blocking your door that you basically set up to have them enter. So I just don't like Caustic for that, but he can definitely be good in certain areas, especially early game. You can get a decent amount of value. Again, going back to Octane, being able to heal up for that small amount, like 1s and 2s, it can actually make the difference between winning and losing in a gunfight. Like I mentioned before with Lifeline, even if you throw it down mid-fight, to heal for a very small amount can be a really big deal, because a lot of times, if you add up the injuries of guns, you're doing 198, 199, a lot of times, it's just one bullet, and that can be a huge deal. With Caustic, that it never does 1 damage. It actually does 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it just goes and gets higher, and it ticks up to 10, and then it keeps on ticking for 10. But basically, that small amount of damage can be actually, again, huge. Again, one bullet can make the difference between losing and winning a gunfight. But again, you're forced to basically play passive. Now, I originally really loved Bloodhound, but really, Gibraltar is really great for more, I would say, higher level scrims. But again, most of you guys that are probably watching this are like, dude, I just want to get some more wins, right? But the thing is that he is still viable. Again, any of these heroes are still very viable. It's just that some of them are just better than others in certain situations, and the consistency of other heroes obviously is going to be different. But I used to love playing Bloodhound, specifically if you have a bad PC. I've noticed, at least from my experience, that the Bloodhound's ult can actually make you drop a lot of frames. It might be because I'm streaming, but if you have a bad PC, sometimes you have to consider those things. You'll drop a lot of FPS, and that can actually factor in and make you not want to run a certain legend because, of course, you're dipping too many frames. It's much more difficult to line up your shots. But anyways, I really feel like after the nerf, and the nerf was really small. Basically, it's like a 1-second delay on her basic ability. But the ability that you have that makes Bloodhound so good is the ultimate. But it's the ultimate, right? Mid-fight, being able to find out where someone is, especially if they're a better player, is not going to give you a huge advantage like you would be able to get with, let's say, the ability of Bangalore, right? But the thing is that it's so good that I consider Bloodhound to be very viable, and I used to play Bloodhound all the time. But because you don't have it available every single fight is kind of why I put Bloodhound a little bit lower on this list. But also, you can hear that thing from super far away. I've never really noticed that until I stopped playing Bloodhound and I started facing against more of them. And I swear, you can hear that thing from so far away, and because of that, you know exactly what their plan is. And it's so easy to just go into a certain area and know exactly that their plan is to push you, right? They're not going to pop their ult and sit super far back. That just doesn't really make any sense. But that's just how I feel about Bloodhound, is simply that there's not enough times where you get to pop the ultimate. It's very few fights. At least that's how I personally feel with it. Again, it's a good legend, but it's not like you're going to be able to pop it every single fight. And again, the passive, it does let you kind of find more teams and play a little bit more aggressive in that sense, but I feel like after playing the game for a while, I feel like you should be able to know when and where to rotate. Gosh, I didn't know this video was going to be so long. Okay, I'm going to back up the gameplay just a few minutes here. But as far as the B tier, that's what I would consider the B tier. Now, as far as the C tier over here, I only put Mirage in C tier. I feel like he really needs a buff. Like, I messed around with Mirage for a while. Obviously, he was like the first legend that I bought and started getting some gameplay on. But as time got on, people understood what his ability was, you know, the bamboozle. I feel like before, when everyone was just hopping on Apex, like, what the heck is this? They didn't know who he was because they didn't have him. They didn't know what his abilities did. But as time progressed, people get bamboozled less because obviously they know what the heck a hero does. But in addition to that, I feel like his ultimate is so weak because you can't cancel it, and you can get shot at, but you can't shoot them back. And on top of that, they know that they can play aggressive against you because you can't fire back against them. That's a huge like deal breaker for me, because I really feel like you should be able to cancel his ultimate. And on top of that, his passive is almost useless because like it's useful when you're knocked down. Like I just feel like he needs some type of a buff. I think he's in what I would consider the bottom tier. Again, I don't think he is like unplayable by any means. None of these characters are so bad that they're unplayable, but it's just like, if we're talking about what is the worst hero, and a hero has to be like what, you know, the worst hero. One of them has to be the worst, right? I would consider him the worst, and that's simply because his passive is pretty much useless. You can't uncloak. The clones lose their value because everyone knows what he does. Of course, unless of course there's a new player in the game. But again, are you really worried about trying to beat a new player anyways, right? So yeah, I think Wraith's basic ability outclasses his ultimate because his ultimate makes it so he can't cancel it. He can get shot at. He can be damaged by everything. I mean, yeah, he does have that cloak, but I think on default, the clone should move. Now, you can, however, jump or be at the ledge or something, and the clones from the ultimate will, however, run out. But I think it should just be there on default because it just makes a small area that you know that he's not in there. I mean, you could pop his ultimate and sit in the center, and I don't know, maybe a really bad player will like know that you're there, but for the most part, they're going to know that he's not in this area, he's probably moving back. Like, it's generally a ability that you're trying to use to disengage rather than engage. You can try to engage with it, but if they see a bunch of clones, they're going to be expecting you in the first place. Maybe you pop it behind an area, then at that point you would have to know that they're there, and at that point, well, you kind of have an advantage anyways because you know what they are. But overall, I feel like Mirage doesn't really have the best place as of right now, but who knows? Maybe he'll get a buff in the future. But anyways, that's my tier list. You guys can let me know what you think about it down below. If you guys would move any of these heroes, let me know. And I also want to know why. I feel like that's important. By the way, here's a free bonus tip. When you land from a very high area, if you melee the ground, you'll basically stop the landfall, which causes you to move a little bit slower. You guys just saw it right there. But anyways, yeah, that's my tier list. You guys can let me know your tier list down below. I'd love to know. But there it is, guys. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the vid. And let me know what hero you plan to play in this season. Like, what is your go-to hero? For me, if I want to win games, I honestly just play Bangalore. But if I'm looking to have fun, I really find Pathfinder to be so much fun this season. Just being able to grapple to the other ziplines is great. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. And if you're new here and you want to see more Apex as well as other gaming content, hit the subscribe button and turn on that bell because YouTube is broken in 2019. And thanks for watching, guys, and peace.